Hi, I'm Shaun Keenan, and you're listening to the Halftone Effect.
Welcome to another adventure of the Halftone Effect.
Save us!
Oh no!
Hey guys, and welcome back to another issue of the Halftone Effect. I am your host, Kieran Jack, and tonight I am joined by veteran of the Halftone Effect podcast, Shaun Keenan. Hey Shaun, thanks for joining in. And I just cut you off. Yeah.
G'day, guys. How you going? Yay. That's all right. Oh, you called me a veteran, and we stuff it up straight off the bat. Isn't that great?
Do you know the best thing about that though is I can go in now and edit it, and it won't even notice it.
Oh, that's fantastic. The 2020. It's the tools and everything we've got these days is amazing.
The joys of technology.
That's it.
Shaun, you are joining us tonight because you are about to launch yet another awesome Kickstarter. I've had the privilege of seeing the behind the scenes of this, and it looks brilliant. I'm excited for you. We've been talking about it for a while now, but I thought I'd get you on the show to talk about the concept behind this and how it all came to be, and talk about the Kickstarter that's upcoming.
Yeah, well, it feels like this has been in the works for so long. I first spoke to the person that I was doing the crossover with almost a year ago. So to actually be in a position now to launch this crossover Kickstarter is really, really exciting. So just a few different things that about this Kickstarter, which I guess we'll get into, that has got me really exciting. It was about trying to do something different. I have done quite a few Kickstarters, and this one's really got me energized and excited to try something new.
Yeah, and like I said, I'm looking at some of the pages right now, and it's just like, I know it's without them being lettered, and they're just jaw-dropping. Now, I remember when this all came about, when it started, and you were excited about it then. But to see it now come to fruition and kind of start to be released into the wild, how has that been? Because it's very rarely we see crossovers like this caliber.
Yeah, so I guess to explain what the Kickstarter or the project is it's called XCT Infinity. So it's a crossover between my XCT series that a lot of people would have heard of, and it's going to cross over with a video game company called Lightmare Studios and their multiverse called Infinity Wars. So the cool thing about this crossover was that it originated as a Spartacus going into the video game, and was going to have a card deck within their video game, which is called Infinity Heroes. But after speaking to them and kind of going, well, how are we going to get people excited about playing XCT or Spartacus in their video game, I came up with the idea of doing this crossover as an actual comic. So we've got not only Spartacus in the video game, but now Spartacus entering into the Infinity Wars multiverse, and how that all goes about in a comic book form. So this, as I said, mentioned before, it's been a year in the making, and now we've probably the last 3 or 4 weeks really started to promote it, and it's started to gain a lot of traction. So we've just got our first article up on Gamers Down Under the other day, which done a feature on it, and we're also going to catch up and on their podcast as well, which is kind of cool.
So, with the whole idea behind the card game, and I'm guessing, so hearing you talk about it then, because I don't know a lot about Infinity, is it more a card game based digitally?
Yeah, correct. So like your Hearthstone.
Yep.
So you've got your whole So with Hearthstone, you've got your World of Warcraft lore and everything behind it. So with Infinity Heroes, you've got their first game, which came out in 2014, called Infinity Wars, and all the lore behind that. And then they've created this digital card game like your Hearthstone or your Magic the Gathering digitally type of thing. So it's really, really cool. It's all on every single type of platform that you can think of. It's all connected, so you can play someone that's on an Android, on a iPhone, or an iPhone to a PC, all that type of stuff, which is really cool and all around the world as well.
Wow, that's exciting, man. To have your IP to be getting that kind of exposure is next level.
Yeah, it's really cool because the thing that kind of hooked me was that their first game actually had a crossover with Star Trek. So the possibilities of me being in a game, if they have the ability to get the license back for Star Trek or Star Wars or Lord of the Rings or any of those type of things, to kind of have my own characters and comic characters up against those would be super exciting. I can still remember I got the beta game and was testing it last week, and I was like, okay, I'm just going to play it for 10 minutes. I need to do some work and get stuff done. An hour later, here I am still playing the game and everything, because it's like it's my own cards, man. It's like really cool. And I didn't realize when I sent through the artwork that they were also going to animate the artwork. So the actual card in the game, the characters either move or the background moves, or I've got a guard which shoots the laser, so the laser shoots and everything. So that's even cooler when I saw that after I'd played just the static version. So
Wow, that's so exciting. It's so cool to hear that kind of crossover within the Australian comics community, because like it's very rarely like there's crossovers. We've just had a successful crossover recently with the Plan B Killaroo crossover, but it's another platform, and gaming is, dare I say it, it's more popular than comic books. It is what comic books were, 30 to 40 years ago. And to have your IP, to be able to have them on screen with the possibility of other larger IP as well, it's very rarely seen in this industry. So it's really cool to have watched this kind of project tick along and now finally seeing the light of day.
yeah, it was funny because I've named one of the characters after my nephew, and he was like, "Oh, when am I going to be in the comic?" And I was like, "Okay, well, the next one's going to have your character in it, so that's coming out." And when I told him that I'd actually used his character in the video game, he he couldn't give a flying you know FUCK about the comic. It was just like, I just want the video game now. So that's kind of cool, and I've always enjoyed video games myself. I'm not the biggest gamer, but there's been certain games that I've enjoyed to play, and all that type of stuff. But when I got this opportunity, I was just like a kid in a candy store. I was like, how fantastic to be able to play with another medium, to see my work along different characters, designs used in a different way. I thought, how cool is that? And then I thought, well, let's make a comic on top of that. That's what I'm known for, and what I feel like I'm good at. So let's combine the two, and this is where we're at.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's so exciting as well. Now the Kickstarter is, well, by the time this podcast is out, it'll be launched. Do you want to give us a bit of a spiel on that and the idea behind that?
Yeah, definitely. So we've got a live launch on the 18th of September at 7 p.m. So, as we said, by the time this gets out, we will already be live. But we will be doing so within the Kickstarter. You can get the comic. You can get there's a couple of different covers, but you can also get the game, and then with the game you can unlock the hero XCT hero deck and all that type of stuff. So we've tried to price things quite reasonably as well. So that's the one thing I've always tried to do with the Kickstarters. For as low as $30, you actually get a PDF pack bundle, which is at the moment consists of about 5 different comics or graphic novels. You get access to the video game. You get the Spartacus Hero unlock, and you also get the XCT deck, which is a 9 cards in total. So I thought at $30 that's quite reasonable type of thing. So we're super excited to try and get as many new readers on board, and then for those people that have followed the XCT series, have them enjoy the game and that as well.
Yeah, right. That's cool as well. Like Kickstarter it's been the ultimate weapon of choice for a lot of people during this pandemic, but getting it out there to a larger audience, which you wouldn't normally do on a standard release, and you and I know this from our experience, it does have that way of projecting your project out and getting it some places you wouldn't even imagine would really be interested in comic books, but it happens.
Well, 100%. So I guess with me and this project, it's really good in regards to one, we're using that Kickstarter platform to showcase it internationally. So that gives us one platform that is really good and wide ranging. Having a second person involved with the project, so the video game company, that gives us another platform. So we're now showing our product and wares to a completely different audience. So there will be some crossover there with people enjoying the comic and enjoying the game, but it's not going to be for everyone. And then you've got my own comic audience on top of that, which is the people that already follow XCT and everything. So this is the first time I really feel that I've got quite a large platform to kind of showcase to, rather than just my normal backers each time I do a Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I think that's important. The following you have does make a larger opportunity to get your work out there quicker and get it funded quicker and get the talk happening about it more sooner, which is important because it actually takes a lot of stress off us as creators to be able to get it funded. And Kickstarter are really, I feel as though in the last 2 years they've changed a lot of their format, but they've also stepped it up in the easement of getting it out there to people. Like the pre-launch campaign we do now.
Yeah, see, that's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed the pre-launch page. So we've had the pre-launch page going for about 3 weeks. So we're just sitting at about 100 followers on that at the moment. So just that alone, knowing that 100 people are going to be notified at launch is fantastic. And then the other things that I've noticed with Kickstarter this year, having run a few Kickstarters, is that they've also done the other suggestions in your updates or your other posts, which is really good. So you've now got another opportunity of people that might not have seen your project on Kickstarter, that here's something that's come into their inbox. They've backed something else, but here's your project down the bottom as well. So that's been fantastic. And I have noticed, like, when yourself and I've ran a Kickstarter at the same time. I've actually seen your book being shown to me prior to me having pledged to it. So that's kind of cool that whatever algorithm Kickstarter is using is targeting the right people as well that would be interested in our wares.
Yeah, it definitely has changed. I think for us especially, we do tend to share our projects within our own communities a bit, which is something that's another great tool to connect with that audience and to connect with other creators. Because first and foremost, you need to be a supporter of Kickstarter. You can't just expect to jump on there and to get your project funded. It's a two-way street. And I've had people come to me and ask me how do you manage to run a Kickstarter and get it funded, whether it be a quick one or it drags out but still gets over the line. It's the fact that I've been backing these projects since 2014. It's because I've put an effort in with the people that create and come back, and vice versa, and there's relationships there. It does count as your portfolio. And the people who are backing your own projects, they want to see that you're supporting the independent comic scene within Kickstarter.
Yeah, and I think the good thing is it actually shows you how many of you created and how many you've backed, so people can really identify whether you're just jumping on trying to get the quick buck and jumping off, or whether you're someone within the community that's really helping foster that community. And look, I've said all the time that the more you back and share other people's projects, the more connections you make. Doing these type of things like podcasts or live streams, like you get to interact and connect with other creators. Doing my own live YouTube show that I've started up this year, it's really helped me kind of connect with other creators and really look at why I enjoy doing comics and everything. And, when you hear a story that someone's passionate about and the reasons why they're passionate about and how it interlaces with them as a person, that really gives me a kick type of thing. So...
Yeah, it is, and it really does show in this year, especially for you, Shaun, and your company, Comics to Movies. The work that you guys have put out since the start of the year is evident in the Kickstarter, the successful Kickstarters that you've had funded. I mean,
Yeah, I know. I was like, well, we talked about COVID. You mentioned COVID before, and I was like, well, when all the conventions were like, okay, it's not going to happen, or they said that they were going to put it off and all that type of stuff. I was like, oh, how am I going to make any sort of money? Like, what am I going to do to make some money that I would, 75% of what I usually make is from a convention. So I'm like, well, holy shit, what am I going to do now? Type of thing to raise that type of money. And Kickstarter was something that I've always been pretty, I wouldn't say lucky, but been pretty successful at, having done, 7 or 8 prior to, 10 prior to this year. So I was like, okay, well, that's worked for me. How about I just do that more often and just repeat the process of what I'm doing? Because I've got the fans want to buy my stuff. If I'm able to produce it quicker and then do a Kickstarter, which is what helps me pay for what I'm creating, then if I can do that more, then why not? So we started with Terra Olympus in March. That was when the lockdown went down. We were like, we'll do a 50-day campaign just in case we can't hit our target. That was our best Kickstarter to date. We raised $12,000 on Kickstarter, which was absolutely amazing. We had 396 backers, which was the most backers we'd ever had, and it was right in the heart of the pandemic, of when internationally everything was closing down. So then we backed that up with an Indiegogo campaign, which we were able to raise another 5,000 for. And then while that was running, I launched our next XCT Fractured World Kickstarter, which again had the most amount of backers for a XCT project and the most amount of money raised. So we're like, okay, let's just keep doing this. So when XCT Infinity had been in the works for a while, I was speaking to the game company and Alfie who runs that and said, look, let's get this out there. I feel that it will, be successful enough to get the minimum amount that we raise, but there's also an opportunity there that if it's really successful, that we can make double or twice the amount that we're looking to raise. So we're only looking to raise the 6,000 to produce the actual comic, but if we can do raise more than that, then we can do extra stuff and get the series out a little bit quicker than we would plan to in the interim. So
yeah, it's a big effort, and yeah, you're right in the sense of COVID. It kind of hit, and it was a bit of a scuttle because you and I were doing conventions at the time that it kind of really started to take effect here in Australia. And we're kind of scratching our heads going, well, what do we do? Because I myself pushed a campaign back because I was like, I don't want to run it and have it not succeed. But I don't think I was kind of thinking about it in the right sense, because people still need to be entertained if they're locked down in their homes. And the great thing is that the postal service around the world, for the most part, has still been running. But I kind of kick myself now because I look back and I'm like, I should have done that campaign earlier, and it would have been a lot more easier for the long term, getting more stuff out.
Yeah, and I think for me, we kind of hit that perfect storm point where so many people did what you did and delayed their launch, that when now they say on average there's between 200 and 250 projects live on Kickstarter in any 1 month. Now, when we launched in March this for Terra Olympus, there was only 174 projects.
Well,
So
I'm just looking right now. Do you know how many projects are on there right now?
239.
Well, I'm looking in the comics section, primarily in the comics, and it's 16,782 projects.
Oh, that's in total, but not live.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry. Okay, I thought that was live. Even still, I mean, how many did you say at the moment?
At the moment, let me check, sir.
I can just edit that out and put you there as the
240.
Okay, 240. Still, that's a lot. I mean,
So I said 239. I was bloody
pretty
close.
I mean, unless you're Keanu Reeves, that's hit the $1 million mark for his Berserker. I mean, that's proof in the pudding. Like, the big guys are coming across to Kickstarter now to put their projects up on here. Like, what does that say in itself?
Well, it says a lot about, I think, the industry at the moment when you're talking about distribution going through one provider for many, many years to, trying to have multiple distributors to comic book stores that are going to get charged multiple shipping options that, a lot of these companies are going, well, this is one book. They've made $1 million off one book that will cost them less than probably $100,000 to create, print, and actually ship out to people. If 900,000 profit, thank you very much, type of thing. So I think it's for Boom. It's actually quite a clever idea. The only thing I did have a little bit of a grudge with was the shipping costs. They were charging you 30 to Australia, 37 US each time. So that was more than what the books cost. And the books weren't coming out until September next year, April 2022, and September the year after. I'm like, for such a large company, I don't know why they would need to be doing the Kickstarter now a year prior to them coming out. So, and then the only other thing that hurts is the local comic book stores. Is that when they're selling this many pre-sales online, how many stores are not going to get those sales type of thing.
Yeah, and this is the kind of thing that they need to be careful of, because if they're not honouring the releases of these comics, it will bite them in the butt. So they need to be really making sure they're getting their product out, because a project this magnitude with this many backers and these target dates, the slightest mistake and they will be hunted by their audience, because it's a big company, because it's one of the big companies in the comic book industry. There's a lot more scrutiny on them. So there's a lot more scrutiny on them for likes of us. Like, I'm not perfect. There's been times where some parcels haven't arrived to their destination and I've been called out for it. It's happened twice. But I've made sure that parcel does get there the second time. Whatever reason it might be, I can make amends for it, and I know that those people will appreciate that extra mile that I went to get that to them. And with a big company, it's those kind of things that fall between the cracks that could inevitably hurt them in the longer run if they come back to Kickstarter. And I backed Todd McFarlane's Spawn action figure at the start of the year. Now that did $3 million. $3 million on Kickstarter for an action figure. And again, it's that kind of, it's the pressure there to get that out to the backers, where the likes of the small guys that are doing it, it's a lot more streamlined for us, because we're not dealing with the masses in the sense of pushing it out there. Like, it'd be amazing to make $3 million off any of our projects. But can you imagine the amount of pressure to ship all that content out to do that? It's a team. It's not just one person operation. That's a team of people.
But it will be interesting to see whether they use third party to do all that for them.
I mean, they'd have to. They'd
like back a kit or one of those other options where they don't even worry about it. They just send all the rewards to someone else and let them worry about all the logistics and issues of it.
Just go to Diamond.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's the thing. It is scary. Like, I do find it a little bit intimidating that they're coming across now, and I guess I call it our turf because we've been doing it for so long on here. They're coming across to our turf now and using it to put their project. It's like, whoa, hold up. You guys have got a distributor. You guys are good. You don't need to worry about it. You're in stores all around the world. Why do you need to come to Kickstarter? And that's where my mind goes to sometimes when I see all these projects popping up that are from big publishers and distributors. It's like, cool, I get it. But it's like, you've got Diamond. You've got the other guys.
The flip side of that I look at is that, are they bringing people onto the platform that aren't already on the platform? And if so, they're now giving me someone else that I can sell to.
And yes, that's a good way of looking at it. And hopefully it does. Those numbers do turn around, and people are coming on here and they're finding a lot more out about projects that are happening that might be a bit smaller than what they're used to. And hopefully they find their new favourite comic in the process. So yeah, it is a double-edged sword in that sense. But it is scary to see them all coming across like this.
Yeah, well, there's a good saying or quote that I've heard, which is "rising tides lifts all boats."
I do say that quite often here on the podcast. So
okay,
no,
there we go.
Maybe I said it and you heard me say it.
There we go. Probably.
It's an old saying.
You're a man of wisdom,
not taking credit for that.
You can take credit for that. But that's what I feel like that's these really big campaigns where they're getting those thousands of customers to come on and back, I do feel that they're bringing people onto the platform that might not have necessarily been on the platform before or even heard of the platform. So, look, I'm going to reserve judgment for a little bit of time, but I'll find out this Friday when we launch and go up against Berserker and see how he goes.
Look, I mean, I hope you come out with $1 million on your pocket. That'd be awesome. I'd be happy for my my friends in the comic book community to make that kind of money.
I might reach out to Keanu to see if he can do a backer update for me.
You never know. You never know.
That never hurts to
I know,
ask.
exactly. That's exactly right. But yeah, it's been an interesting year for creators in general. I will say this: I'm a little bit underwhelmed by. Been saying that fucking.
Edit that out.
I know.
Edit that.
Well, I'm a bit of self promotion right there. I'm a little bit underwhelmed by the content release from creators this year because I kind of feel like, and this is not just in the comic book community, but just in general for music, I kind of feel like there's an opportunity there for anyone who is an independent creator to really put more content out there. It's people are sitting around. They're sitting at their homes. They're in lockdown. You know, they might be struggling with this whole thing, but the content that people are putting out, it helps people get through this kind of thing.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have gone one of two ways. They've either produced 10 times more than they usually would, or 10 times less. And they're stressing about what's going on and not being able to do what they normally do and aren't able to pivot or change what they usually do. So they're kind of stuck doing nothing type thing, stuck in that fear mode of like, okay, well, I can't try anything new or change up what I'm doing because that's what I'm used to. Where you see those people and those creators that have been able to pivot, that have able to change, and have been far more productive. Like for myself, I mentioned before we've got a live YouTube stream, Comics to Movies and More. That's something that I started this year. I'd never done that before. The most Kickstarters I'd ever ran before in a year was 2. I've already ran 2 Kickstarters, 2 Indiegogos, and are now going on to another Kickstarter with 2 more Kickstarters planned by the end of the year. So, like, you will see that there'll be those people that are like, oh, COVID happening, we can't do anything, and the doom and gloom, and then you'll have those other people that are like, okay, well, what can we do? My target market's still there. They're at home. For us here in Australia, we've like JobKeeper up until March next year, so they might have a little bit more money than otherwise they would have. Let's try and tap into that and entertain people as well. As you said, they're at home. There's only so much Netflix and Amazon and all that you can watch over and over, especially with the delays of series, TV series coming out. And then even from the comic industry side, like from March till June, they didn't even send out comics. So, it was an ideal time for independent creators, as you're saying, to really jump on and try and steal some of that audience to say, hey, well, I know DC and Marvel aren't distributing or doing anything, but come over to Kickstarter and back these indie comics, and we'll have them out to you within a month to your door. So
and that's exactly the same mindset that I was thinking once this hit. I just wish I hadn't held it off for as long as I did in the sense of our releases, because I feel as though we could have achieved even more. I say this with a lot of love, but I feel as though the conventions are not as important that I once thought. and I've watched you adapt with the YouTube videos you do, the live streams you do, and also with your appearances at virtual cons or virtual markets, and I see the shift that's happening, and in a sense, it's a good shift, because you and I both know that the cost in going to conventions, for me around the world, for you all the way around the world, it's a big cost.
Yeah, and I think for me the idea of losing 75% of your income for a year is very, very scary. And it really made me sit down and look at my business model and go, am I doing enough to be profitable? And when I look down at your conventions, and like you're always like, oh, I did this and I made this and all that type of stuff. And then I go, okay, well, that all gets invested in creating my next comic. When if I just go straight to Kickstarter and raise that money and produce that comic, if I make anything more than that, I can put that straight into creating the next comic. And I've seem to increase my audience each time I do that. So it really made me sit down and think. And I've been doing Kickstarters since 2015, 2015. So it's only now where I stopped because I'm so busy doing a convention every second weekend that I actually took the time to look at my business and go, okay, what is the best model moving forward? And 100%, I agree with you. Like when you pay for tables, flights, accommodation, really you get no sort of advertising for the money that you pay. So it really is you doing all the spruiking and all that type of stuff. If you put that money towards a Kickstarter or towards Google ads or to Facebook ads or something like that, you could probably hit more of a target audience than you would at those conventions. Look, I still feel they have a place, and that interaction is always great, but 100% when you said, that value of what you put on conventions has really shifted for me as well in regards to, what you would see as their worth type of thing. So.
Yeah, and for me, and again, it comes from a place of love. I love doing the conventions. Don't love the hangovers that come after the conventions, but I do miss the audience and interacting with the audience and making sales through people who enjoy the art. But I have done exactly what we're talking about with Google AdWords and Facebook advertisement and pushing my stuff out there, and I'm seeing a return in the sense of people checking out my work. Now, it's changing. And I think the longer we're not doing the conventions, it's going to be more beneficial to creators who have really utilized this time to put their stuff out online in the World Wide Web, because that audience is always hungry for content. And don't get me wrong, you don't have to put content up every day. Don't fall into that trap. I used to fall into that trap. I've managed to get myself out of that, because you just put up the stuff that you're happy with. But yeah, there's that opportunity there, and it's a little bit troubling in the sense of it's a place of love that a lot of people have just kind of fallen off the plateau during this, when they should have probably given a bit more to it to try and get their stuff out there. I feel as though that really will make and break the next year or two. And
it'll be interesting because it will be highlighted even more when you actually go to the conventions. Because when you go to a convention, you've got 6 in purgatories where you had only two prior to Melbourne. Yep. So you only had two. So you're going to have another four issues of one comic, and then maybe a graphic novel or an edition of another comic after that in a year when you go back to another convention, compared to people that might not have been doing anything or used this time to create much at all, and they're going to rock up with the same stuff that they had last year, and expect the sales to be there type of thing. So for me, we'll have one, two, we'll have about 3 or 4 new graphic novels by the first conventions in March, and then another 2 floppy comics within 12 months, which is a ridiculous amount of work from an independent publisher type of thing. So my idea now is that I just want to make sure that I keep up that type of output, and to be able to keep up that output, there's something else has to give, and that'll be the amount of conventions that I actually attend. So I'm hoping that when I do attend, then people become a bit more inclined to buy straight away, rather than going, oh, okay, I'll just buy the next time I see you at the next convention, because you're always at every single convention.
Yep. I hear there. I found that trap too in the last couple of years. It's been a really, really good kick back to reality. I've kind of found my footing again with the passion of creating, and I personally talk to you a lot outside of the podcast, and we bounce off each other a bit about projects that are coming up, and what you've got on the cards is exciting to see, and it's been an absolute delight just creating, rather than have to stress about a convention, rather than stress about going on the road. Just being able to sit in the studio and just make, and just your mind just goes into a different mindset to what it would be when you've stressed out about getting stuff printed, getting accommodation, just all the nitty gritty that comes along with the conventions. But yeah, you're definitely right in saying that.
Yeah, it's 100%, because you said that we always kind of touch base with each other outside of the convention circle, and we talk about our projects and everything. But there's been a few things that I've done this year that I haven't done in previous years, because like I just get bogged down or kind of forget about doing it. But XCT Breakout, our last graphic novel that we bought out last year, is actually up for an award at a film festival later this year. So it's at the AFIN International Film Festival in Brisbane for the best comic type of thing. So they had over 100 entries, and we got down to the final 3. So we find out in December whether we win that or not. So that's kind of something cool, and some like gratification that I probably wouldn't have submitted this if I was doing a convention every second weekend, because I would have it in my calendar, and then a convention would come up, and then I'd forget about it, and then I'd get home and go, oh damn, there's my reminder to submit that was 2 days ago, but I was in the convention. So
yeah, it's great to see that, and especially with the nomination as well. It would be another note in the evolution of where you've started from and where you are now to win an award like that for Breakout. And it's a great collaboration series that you brought together for that project. So yeah, dude, that's a lot of credit to you and the hard work you do put in between the conventions.
Oh, thank you very much, man. Yeah, so I've always been really lucky that I've surrounded myself with the right people. So I've try and surround myself with really positive people. The people have the same work ethic as me. Like, we've talked about how many Kickstarters we've both ran this year. So, you're one of those people I put in those groups in regards to, pushing me and making me strive to be better. So, but it is always nice to have a little recognition coming back the other way. So we haven't won it yet. We don't find out until December, but I'm putting it out there that we're going to win it. But look, to get even down to the top three is a phenomenal achievement in the very short amount of time that I've been doing this. So.
Yeah. Don't sell it too short, because it's a category that you rarely ever hear of. It's an award you rarely ever hear of. Sorry, I hadn't heard of it before you'd mentioned it to me, and I think that I never heard anyone else talk about it. So I guess that's really cool to see that kind of recognition from a different award system, rather than it be the same as always.
And I think that goes back to not really researching or doing any of that type of stuff. And, again, when you sit down and think about, well, how can you be better at your business, and, what can sell more books or anything like that. And I've always thought that I'd love to make XCT into a TV series or a movie or something like that. And I always noticed on those independent films, you always see the little what's the reef on it, and it says, International Film Festival Cannes, International Films Festival this, best best soundtrack, all that type of stuff. And I was like, oh, how cool would that be for comic books? And I just started Googling it and having a look, and then found out there was a couple of ones out there. And I was like, I tell you what, I'm just gonna submit it and see how we go. So, I haven't used it yet, but I've actually got the image that I can use on all of my books that says that XCT Breakout is actually a nominee for the best comic. And then if we do win it, they actually change it to winner of the best comic, which would be even better.
That'd be an achievement to put on the comic and have it at the conventions, especially with a nice little emblem on it.
Yeah, and I feel like the biggest thing I've always tried to do is on that distribution model, we've always gone the book route, like your traditional publishing route, rather than your comic publishing route and going through Diamond. So I felt like if I'm able to get that on the book, even with the nominee one, that when I take it into a bookstore, if I send a cover into the bookstore or something like that, that they're like, okay, hang on a sec, this isn't just some independent comic book. It's actually got some sort of recognition or that for, the type of story it is. So that's where I thought from that point of view as well might help down the track. So
very exciting.
And then also grab another audience as well. So if the more places that you can sell stuff, the more eyes you can get on the work, the more you sell. So it's just a numbers game.
Yes, and it's definitely a credit to your work, man, and the drive, like you're saying, that we continually push each other in the creative sense, and it's a credit to your work to be able to be nominated for it, but there's a chance that you'll win, and it's a 1 in 3 chance, and it can happen, and it just goes to show that you've got to put yourself out there.
Yeah, it's interesting because if anyone said at the beginning of this year that not only would we go through a pandemic, that we'd be locked in our houses for months at a time, but that I would be up for a comic award, that I would have created 4 new graphic novels, ran 6 or 7 Kickstarters or crowdfunding campaigns, and done all that without doing a convention, I would have gone, oh, you're absolutely crazy. But that's just what 2020 has brought, and I feel like I feel like I'm actually better for it. And you were saying before about finding that creative passion. I feel that that's the one thing that I was lacking over the last 12 to 24 months. It became so routine based. Every second weekend I was at a convention, it was packing up, packing down, flying here, flying there,
Drinking here,
spending so
drinking
much time at
there.
airports.
Hangover here.
No, don't say that. I told my wife when I go away, I don't drink, mate. You're getting me into trouble. But no, and even from that side, you've got a young family yourself. Being home for this year, I've really enjoyed that time with my family as well because if you're not a creator, sometimes what people don't see is the sacrifice your partner and your children make for you to be able to do all that traveling and all that time away from
Yeah,
them.
no, yeah, that is absolutely correct. That's the
So
families.
shout out to your amazing wife and my amazing wife.
Yep. For and for all the shit they put up with us. To be fair though, it's funny because like I do we both do it. We sacrifice our families, but it's funny like you sacrifice your friendships that are outside of the comic books, and it's ironic because you can't see your friends at the moment either. But the great thing about the podcast is that I've been able to catch up with a lot of you guys outside of the convention circuit. So doing it again for another season has been an absolute delight to be able to catch up with everyone who I probably don't have a strong relationship with as I do with you. And to hear them talk about how they've kind of coped with the crisis and coped with no conventions or whether they are creating or aren't creating, it's just amazing to see what's happening. And look, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. I know there is. I have to believe there is. And I think that when it does happen, we'll be all better for it.
Yeah, well, is the conventions still going ahead later this year for New South Wales and Queensland? I don't see them cancelled yet. So
As far as I know,
wow,
as
okay.
far as I know, they are. I doubt it. I honestly doubt it will be. Look, I know that you know as well that Armageddon is still running theirs, but with New Zealand being as so low in their cases as they have been, that they can get away with having conventions and large gatherings.
But all their guests are virtual as well.
We're still welcoming people back in the country. But they had record numbers for their attendance.
Yeah, I know. One of my mates, because I've done the Christchurch and Tauranga ones a couple of times, and he's like, "Man, these have been my best shows ever." Blah blah blah. Because no one's spending money on photos with guests and everything like that. They're still bringing the same amount of money, if not more money, because they've been locked in their houses for that amount of time. So he was saying that it was a really successful set of shows, and I'm like, oh, I'm stuck in over here and can't do anything. So, but those you mentioned before, the virtual markets. Daniel from Canberra Geek Markets, he's ran them a couple of times throughout the this year, and they're great. So you get 15 minutes to half an hour to spruik your wares, kind of like if someone was coming up to your table, and it's not it's great. He does that all free of charge for the creators, and you make a couple of sales, but you get to put it out there as always on social media. You can always go back and watch that at a later date, or new people are seeing that all the time, and it's a great opportunity again to get eyes on your work. And I have noticed doing the comics to movies live stream that videos are really, really powerful. I didn't really realize how much getting in front of the camera, as uncomfortable as sometimes it is really a great way to sell your wares.
Yeah, and you're absolutely correct there. It's positive to be able to do that kind of stuff. Unfortunately, I've missed the boat for both those Canberra markets because I was preoccupied with other stuff. But I hope to one day get onto them because they sound like they're a lot of fun. And that's what I mean, man. As we continuously go through this situation we're sitting in, it's the evolution of the process, and it's kind of cool to watch it all come to fruition.
And there's so many tools out there that I've now come across that I probably wouldn't have come across if I wasn't at home, surfing through stuff. So I've got like a massive list of small business tools now to kind of do things to help either promote or do videos or make animations or all these type of things to help with that content creating, so that when things do get back to normal, that I can create the same amount of content but in half the time.
Yes, yeah. It sounds like you're evolving with the process, which is important. But it is exciting to hear the work that you've been doing throughout this year, Shaun. As always, it's a great pleasure having you on the show and hearing you talk about what's going on in the world of comics to movies. But before we do wrap up tonight, did you want to once again just tell everyone where they can find your current Kickstarter that you're running?
My Kickstarter XCT Infinity will run from the 18th of September till the 11th of October. Pledges or rewards start as low as $5 for the digital comic, all the way up to $900.50, where you can become a hero or villain in the comic and in the video game, which is a very cool reward. On top of that, it is a crossover between our XCT series and the game company Infinity Heroes. And also, the other thing that I didn't mention before, which is kind of cool, it has fan interaction at the end of each comic. So it's kind of like your old school choose your own adventure. We will give you a couple of options. We will have a site set up where you can cast votes, and then that will change the direction of the next issue of the story. So there's a few unique things to this Kickstarter that we're super excited about. So if you can check it out, it's on Kickstarter from the 18th of September until the 11th of October. And thank you very much for having me on once again, Kieran. This is by far my favorite podcast to come on to.
Oh, shucks. You're making me blush. It's always a pleasure having you on, Shaun, and talking shop with you. Like I said at the start of it, you are a veteran to the series, and that's important to have. People who can come back and shoot their knowledge and talk about their insights to the world of creating comics. But yes, thank you once again, guys, for joining into the Halftone Effect. We will be back again next week. See ya.